Namaste, Vanakkam, Swagatam, Namaskaram. Very, very special day to be interacting with all of you. It is a day that is a special day because it is related to the sun, and Surya is the hero of the day. And all over India, different variations of the same festival are celebrated. This part of the country, Tamil Nadu, we celebrate Pongal. Other parts are celebrating Bihu, Lohri, Makar Sankranti. So many different names for a similar festival that is related to the sun, Surya, and also related to the farming community and the harvest season. This is a very much a harvest festival, and the whole harvest depends on the benevolence of the sun. So offering you all wishes for a very special occasion, a special day, a day that is propitiating the external and the internal sun. Let us invoke the Guru Spirit. Om Tadvaram Paryaya Vidmahe Jnanalingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tanno Guruh Prachodayate. Om Yoga Maharshi Dr. Swami Geetananda Giri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Today's Satsangha is dedicated to the yogic concept of relaxation. And Swamiji, often when he used to talk about this, he used to say, there's a common statement in English, everybody talks about the weather, nobody does anything about it. And he used to say the same with relaxation. Everybody talks about relaxation, but nobody does anything about it. And so often he used to give us a mental picture of, clients going to their doctor and having all sort of ailments. And the doctor would tell them, you need to relax. And Swamiji used to say, the doctors would be secretly hoping that the patient doesn't ask them, how doc am I supposed to relax? Because medical school doesn't teach you anything about relaxation except anxiolytic prescriptions. And we hand out anxiolytic prescriptions and we hope people will relax with them. It is ironical that the greatest contributor to healing is relaxation. The greatest contributor to healing is relaxation, yet medical school does not address this at all. Now, if you get into a few progressive curricula, if you get into a place where there's a professor who has a special interest in these techniques, you may hear something about it. But that is always an exception to the rule. It's never the rule. In medical school, we are taught a lot about what is called the stress response. Loads and loads and loads of information comes in about stress response. You don't hear much of the relaxation response. It comes much, much later. And the term relaxation response, courtesy of Benson, for the past 50 years has been running around. And yet, it has become commonly used in the non-medical circles, not so commonly used in the medical circles. And still many doctors will come out of the basic training knowing of the stress response, but not the relaxation response. I am not criticizing the medical system. I'm just stating the problem so that we can see, can we provide a solution? We are not looking at the problem for the problem's sake, but for the sake of a solution. And this is why I believe that yoga, with its numerous techniques of relaxation, concepts of relaxation, approaches to relaxation, can indeed supplement the modern medical management of virtually every condition you can think of. Whether you are dealing with acidity or AIDS, whether you are dealing with hepatitis or cancer, whether you are dealing with coronavirus or whether you are dealing with bronchial asthma. In every one of the conditions you can think about, stress aggravates the condition. Often it precipitates a latent tendency. So someone has a tendency for a certain disease. Tejasvi asked me this question a few weeks ago. She said, in yoga, you talk about Adija Vyadi, the psychosomatic disorders, where the imbalance at the higher aspect of the psyche, which is your connection with the universe from the yogic perspective. When we use the word psyche in yoga, it is your connection to the universe. Not just the mind and emotions, but your connection to the universe is what we understand as psyche in yoga. And an imbalance at that level where you are not at ease with your relationship to the universe, being the cause of all the mind and body issues that happen. And Tejasvi asked me, she said, if the mechanism is the same, how then are different conditions manifesting in different people? And is it genetic tendencies? And yes, in the question itself, the answer lies, as so often we find, that we all have certain genetic predispositions. So the genetic predisposition is like a fault line under the ocean. And if the circumstances come to a conducive environment, the earthquake occurs on that fault line. It doesn't mean every fault line on this planet's tectonic plate does not have an earthquake. Every fault line doesn't need an earthquake, but then when the conditions are ripe, the fault line will be exposed and the earthquake occurs. Similarly, our genetical fault lines, the line of the genes, the genome, has a certain fault line that may or may not be expressed, and stress potentiates the expression of the fault line. So if in your family there's a tendency for diabetes, well, that's how it's going to manifest. If your tendency is for coronary artery disease, it's going to manifest that way. If your tendency is for bipolar affective disorder, it is going to manifest that way. Stress will trigger it. And yesterday, a dear student of mine met me and was narrating how her husband went into a full-blown bipolar condition during 2020 because of the work stress and the stress he was under that pushed him into it, and he lost his job. And before that, he was perfectly fine. And I'm like, well, he was perfectly fine, but the fault line was there. And the stress exposed the fault line. It exposed the underbelly that you were hiding. And that is why stress precipitates, potentiates, aggravates, worsens, and complicates every ailment known to humankind. So then what do we need to do? We need to change the way the stress manifests in us. And Ingan has already given an answer there. If you change your lifestyle, you have taken one of those negative points away from the fault line. Because it's like the straw that breaks the camel's back. We all heard that story many times in our life. That you keep on putting straw on the camel, straw on the camel, straw on the camel, and finally one small straw breaks the back. And everybody's focused on that one straw, but no, it was this constant stress. And that is what happens. And this is why when we change our lifestyle, when we change our diet, when we change the way we think, when we change the way we respond rather than react, we are attenuating the fault line, preventing its expression. And this is the key of yogic relaxation, because all forms of yoga relaxation induce the relaxation response. Now, my dear friend Sadhbir Khalsa at Harvard, he gets upset when I use the term relaxation response, because he says that is only Benson's stuff. And I'm like, no. Benson gave it a term. Benson gave it a framework. But this is what already is being done in yoga. Because stress implies a reactivity. Relaxation implies responsivity. Responsivity, the ability to respond, responsiveness, as opposed to reactiveness. And most of the time, all of us are caught in unconscious, subconscious reactiveness, which is why stress has such a tight hold over us. Tight hold over us. Relaxation doesn't have such a tight hold because you have to choose. And that is why Swamiji's popular statement, it is not the chosen few, but the few who choose. Do you choose to be responsive, or do you let yourself be reactive? Every moment of your life, there is an opportunity to either go down the stress pathway or the relaxation pathway. There is every moment. Today is Pongal here, and it's been raining the whole day. Now, Pongal, you have to celebrate outside because it's a sun god festival. You have to put a fire and you have to cook your rice on it, and the rice and the milk in the rice has to overflow, and that is, you have to go Pongalo Pongal, Pongalo Pongal, Pongalo Pongal, which is a bountiful blessing. And if it's raining the whole day, there's no sun to be seen, and the rain is dampening all your wood. You have to do it on wood and outside. So you cannot get the fire going. You are smoking yourself fully, worse than any 10-pack cigarette per day smoker. Your rice is not getting cooked. It can be quite stressful, okay? Now, one thing you can do is say, let me wait for the rain to stop, and in a gap, get it done. And that's what we did today. And so in the gap, when the sun came out, we had a nice Pongal. Now, there are people who, instead of waiting, would have said, oh, the sun is so bad, my life is so bad, and somebody jumped off the cliff. See, this is what is happening. There is that moment of insanity where we lose it all. And every moment is a potential moment of insanity. I'm going to repeat that. Every moment is a potential moment of insanity. And that is why you need to have the capacity to choose. Are you going to take a step back when you're on the cliff? Or are you going to take a step forward and jump off the cliff? Because that tight rope, Swamiji used to say, the path of yoga is a razor's edge. He said it's walking the razor's edge. It is such a thin line that we are walking. The thin line is between stress and relaxation. And the difference is the attitude we choose. The difference is the choice we make. And what do we do with that choice? What do we do with that attitude? It is so important. So coming back to the concept of relaxation, stress is all based on survival instinct. In yoga, we call it abhinivesha klesha. The abhinivesha klesha. Abhinivesha klesha, which is the survival instinct, and it is the trigger behind all stress. All stress is triggered by the survival instinct. So, if you want to make a difference, you have to again go against the very survival instinct that is keeping you alive all the time. So here, instead of saying I'm going to survive at any cost, we say I am going to do my best and leave the rest. So what has happened? You have changed the attitude from I will do anything to survive, which triggers the stress response. And again, you all know, I like to call it stress reaction. Theoretically, technically, the term is stress response, but there's no response in it at all. It is all reactivity. Relaxation is a response. Stress is not a response. It is a cascade of reactivity. But anyway, because textbooks call it the stress response, I have to use that term. But I keep on telling people, we have to know the difference between stress and relaxation. It's the opposite, chalk and cheese, okay? Not even chalk and cheese, it's even bigger than that. Coming back, Abhinivesha Klesha is the desire to survive at any cost. And Maharishi Patanjali tells us this runs on autopilot. He says the survival instinct runs on autopilot. Now, he doesn't call it autopilot. That's my interpretation of Swarasa Vahi. He calls, the term is Swarasa Vahi. And it has its own autopilot. It's on its own inverter system. Even if you shut down everything else, it still runs. And it has its own backup. Uninterrupted power supply backup is there for survival instinct. Swarasa Vahi. And Patanjali warns us, he says, even the most learned people, Vidusha. Vidusha is someone who knows it all. That is why Vidushi is a term for someone, a lady who is a very great artist and has great wisdom. Vidwan is the male counterpart. Vidwan, Vidushi. He uses the term Vidusho Api. Even in the most wise, learned people, this survival instinct is on autopilot and is there omnipresent. Just like God is there omnipresent, survival instinct is there omnipresent. And he says it doesn't matter what your education, it doesn't matter what your life experiences, it doesn't matter how much you know, it still is there and runs you when you are not careful. And this is why you hear stories of people who are just such amazing, beautiful people, and then they are in an elevator and the elevator gets jammed. And then you should see how they behave and how they want to be the first person to climb out of that elevator, standing on everybody else's shoulders. Me first, I need to survive. And Titanic is a good example when everybody had to jump on the boats to escape. Titanic is a good example of that. And that's why I love the musicians who stayed back to play on the Titanic. They showed that when you use your right brain, you see the bigger picture and you say, life is not about boats. Life is about what we do when the choice comes to us. And they chose to make music while everybody was making misery. They made music while others were making misery because they realized face to face with what must come. Why should you feel sad? Let's make music as Titanic sings. That to me is the message of yoga. That is the message that there's no use of getting worked up about it. And I think this is something that we all know. In fact, Yudhishthira, the eldest of the Pandavas, and many people don't realize the Ramayana and Mahabharata are yogic scriptures. And so many people make a mistake of saying, no, 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 they have nothing to do with yoga. And when you go through Mahabharata and Ramayana, there are so many yogic attitudes that are put into daily situations that are amazing teachings. And we miss it if we are looking for a sutra in the Mahabharata. You're not looking for yoga sutras in Mahabharata. You are looking for human day-to-day life experiences in the Mahabharata, how to make the right choice, how to follow dharma. And following dharma is what yoga is about. Yoga and dharma are synonymous. There's no duality there. So in the Mahabharata, the eldest of the Pandavas, Yudhishthira is also called Dharman or Dharma Raja. And because he never moves away from dharma, for him, dharma is the only thing that matters, nothing else. And he is the divine son of the god of death, Yama Raja, who's also called Yama Dharma Raja because Yama has no favoritism. He doesn't bend the rules for anyone. It is your time. Yama says it's your time. It doesn't matter whether he likes you or doesn't like you. He will do what needs to be done. So Yama is called Dharma Raja. And Yama is the celestial father of Yudhishthira, also called Dharma Raja. I'm just putting it in the context. Now there is a section of the Mahabharata called Yaksha Prasna. And I'm going to type that out. Yaksha Prasna, which is a very beautiful section where the Pandavas are in exile. They are in the forest and a deer steals their fire-making kit. You know, the flintstones? Yeah. Their flintstones are stolen by a deer, and that deer is a supernatural being, and the whole story is different pieces together. So they run after the deer. They cannot find the deer. They get tired. They are thirsty, and they see a pond, a lake. And one by one, they go to this lake, and one by one, they are asked by a supernatural being, a yaksha, in the form of a stork, a heron, a crane, you know, whatever type of bird, a baka. Baka is the crane. They are asked by this voice that answer my question and then drink the water, otherwise you will die. And they say, to hell with you, I am thirsty. And each one of them drinks the water and 4 of them die on the spot. These are 4 out of 5 brothers. The 5th, the eldest brother, comes last. And he sees his 4 brothers lying dead on the side of the pond. And he's like, these are guys who could defeat anybody. They could defeat the gods. Who could kill them? You know, this is amazing. This is unbelievable. And he hears a voice that says, well, your brothers did not listen to me. I told them answer my question. Instead, they drank the water. So now, will you answer my question? Yudhishthira says, I'm willing to answer, but he said, this is not good on your part. The voice says, that's none of your business. Either you answer my question or not. That is your business. He says, okay, fine, fire away. And the questioning goes on, and different questions are asked by the supernatural being who is a yaksha. Ultimately, it is Lord Yama in that form. But first it is a crane, then it is a yaksha, then it is Lord Yama. And this is a section where different questions are asked to Yudhishthira. And as he answers them, more questions are asked, more questions. And then finally, the supernatural being is pleased and says, you have answered all my questions. I will let you have one of your brothers back out of 4. I'll have one brother back. And Yudhishthira chooses one of the twins. He doesn't choose Arjuna, who's the most greatest archer. He doesn't choose Bhima, who's the most strongest big green Hulk in the universe. No. He doesn't choose any of these guys. He chooses one of the twins. And the Yaksha says, Arjuna and Bhima are your favorites. Why you didn't choose one of them? And Yudhishthira says, my mother, Arjuna's mother and Bhima's mother is Kunti Devi, and the twins are born to Madhuri. Their father Pandu has two wives, Kunti and Madhuri. He says, I am alive. One of Kunti's sons is alive. And by giving life to one of the twins, now one of Madhuri's sons is also alive. This is what I want. Even in that moment, his equanimity of mind, it is admirable. And then the Yaksha says, you can have all of them alive because you have been so wise. And then they get blessed and all that. This is the story goes. Now in this, one of the questions is asked by the Yaksha. And the question is, what is the most astounding, surprising thing in the universe? What is the most astounding, surprising thing in the universe? And Yudhishthira says, human beings know that anybody who's born has to die, yet they think they will never die. And I tell you, that's one of the greatest lessons in human psychology. We all know when we put on our objective thinking cap, dispassionate objective thinking cap of Vairagya, we know everyone who's born, including us, one day has to die. And yet we believe we are not going to die. It's not going to be us. And I'll never forget discussions with fellow medical professionals. I remember when I was doing my internship and we were doing all the safety precautions with needles and other things to prevent getting HIV and other conditions. And I remember one of my friends was being very careless about it. And I said, do you realize that there is the chance of you getting infected with hepatitis B or HIV? These are the two major things you worry about as a health care professional. And he said, Ananda, do you know the statistics? I'm like, what? He said, it's only 1 in 1,000 chances. 1 in 1,000 chances is 0.01. 0.01% chances. He says, that means 1 in 1,000. He said, I will not be that one. I will be in that 999. I will not be that one. So why should I care? And everybody who, despite knowledge, goes for unsafe sex, thinks the same, it's not going to be me. Everybody who smokes, despite knowing the statistics, thinks it's not going to be me. Everybody who does self-destructive viparita buddhi, self-destructive behavior, thinks it's not going to be me. And that is what Yudhishthira is pointing out here. We ultimately realize that yes, and ourselves, even ourselves, and I always love to look at ourselves because our cells are a miniature version of us. Our cells are a mini us. Okay. And that is why I say, for your cells, you are God. For your cells, you are God. And you have the cells who are arguing that you don't exist. And those who are singing, hey Sangeeta, Om Sangeeta, and hey Lisa, and hey Jnana Sundari, they're the hail Alex, and hail Ramavedi Garu, your cells are singing it, and the others are like, I deny your existence, you do not exist. And you have all the opposite camps having debates about whether you exist or not and all that. Anyway, jokes apart. Your cells are a mini you. And cells have programmed death, apoptosis. And I always say, I remember that term because you pop off. Just like you pop off, when you die, they say you popped off. It's not a good term, but anyway. Somebody pops off, yeah, they die. Apoptosis. Your cells are programmed to pop off now and then. And every cell has that. Some people call it the death wish. The cell's death wish. Apoptosis. And the only cells that don't have that are cancer cells. Cancer cells have been able to switch off the apoptotic mechanism. And that is why they are so dangerous. The apoptotic mechanisms are switched off. They're put on mute. Like when you don't like somebody talking to you, you put them on mute. You have selective hearing loss. I know a lot of people who they can hear everybody except the partner. This is especially after, about 30 years of marriage, they develop selective hearing loss. It's quite amazing what happens. They hear everybody. I know some who, that special pitch of the partner will be, put on mute. It's amazing actually. The cells do that with apoptosis. So we know that, and because of that, what happens is that we are constantly being triggered by the stress. But then you start to say, if I am worried about dying every moment, I will not be able to live in the moment. So the survival instinct is saying, you're going to die. What if you die? What if you die? What if you die? And as long as you are caught in that, you forget to live in the moment, which is why relaxation response is where you start to live in the moment. Yogic relaxation is bringing you into the now so that you live in the moment, you experience the moment rather than be caught in what if. The biggest trigger for stress is what if. And life is filled with if because L-I-F-E. We have already looked at that before. I-F, the big I-F in life. So there is a potential fault line even in the term L-I-F-E that is called I-F. And if you keep on thinking, and see I use that term if already, if you keep on thinking about the past, you're going to be depressed. And if you think about the future, you're going to be anxious. And you are caught between depression and anxiety. And that is where most people are naturally bipolar. Because they are just going from one end of the spectrum to the other. Yoga says, come into the now. And that is why all the yogic relaxation is based on something you choose to do in the present moment. And one of the best ways to start it is Shavasana. Because in Shavasana, many people get scared of the term Shavasana. They want to call it Shanti Asana. Because they say Shava means dead body, a corpse. Oh, I don't want to do that. Don't talk to me about being a corpse. Well, one day you're going to be one. No, no, no. Huh? I don't want to be one. Well, whether you like it or not, one day for all of us. And in India, it's very interesting because we use a term, the body, for the dead. Once somebody's died, they just refer to as the body. So as long as you're in the hospital and you are still on a ventilator, people say, how is Dr. Ananda? Is he recovering and all that? And when will he come home? Divya's getting mad at me because I'm using myself as an example. But I prefer to use myself as the example than put it on any of you because my karma is my karma alone. And my dharma is my dharma alone. And dharma is the antidote and vaccine to karma. So I'm doing my dharma by using this example. Okay? She's getting a lesson on the side here. As long as I am in the body, my spirit is in the body, the soul. And I'm looking forward to seeing that movie. I have a lot of recommendations to see that movie. So looking forward to seeing it soon. As long as the soul and the body are connected, the Atma and the body are connected, I am called Dr. Ananda. Is he getting better? Is he getting treated? When will he come home? When can we visit him with flowers and apples and fruits and pester him? All that type of nonsense comes in. But the moment the person dies, exactly the next moment you get a call. When is the body being brought back from the hospital? When is the body going to be cremated? Not when the person, when the body. It's astonishing in India. I love this. I love this aspect of Indian culture that hits you straight in your face that the moment the Atma and the body are separated, you are not you anymore. You are just a body that is either going to be buried or cremated or whatever, put to the vultures depending on your religious aspects. The Parsis in India, they take the body and they leave it for the birds of prey to eat the body. That's part of the Zoroastrian culture. That's why I'm putting that also there. There are various ways. Each has its own logic. I'm in favor of any way that suits you. You want to give your body for organ donation, you want to give your body as a medical specimen for the hospital to dissect your body, go ahead. anything you want, but you have become a body. And that is a moment where suddenly you realize that this body is perishable. This body is finite. And that is why when you do Shava Asana, you are realizing the fact that this body too shall perish one day. And why get upset about every small thing that happens? Because everything is not life and death. Everything is life. And when that ends, it is death. So why have this thing? Everything is life or death. Deathline, deadline, deadline, deadline. This is the way we kill people. Give people a lifeline. Say, you have a lifeline till tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. That is what you're giving them a chance. You have a lifeline till Monday, not a deadline. If you don't do it, you're going to be dead. What a way we express it. What we need to realize is every moment is an opportunity to say, this too shall pass. And I love Dr. John Mumford in Australia. Again, one of my wonderful mentors who has given me so much of love in this lifetime and who's also having quite a tough time down under, parallel to what Amma's having here. And that's why it's been a tough year for me. Very, very close people in very difficult situations. But Dr. John used to always remind us, he said, you recover from every illness. You recover from every illness. And already Jnana Sundari is mouthing the answer. You recover from every illness except the last. And I think that is just such a beautiful statement. You recover from every illness except the last. And once it's the last one, it doesn't matter anymore, right? And I think this is so important to take an attitude of relaxation into your life. Because when you are in the now, you are being responsible for whatever you think, say, and do in the now. And that is what life is about. And this is where we have a chance to say, what is my choice? How am I going to respond to the present moment? Not what somebody did yesterday, not what somebody will do tomorrow, but what is happening in the present moment. How do I choose to respond to it? And that is where the relaxation response comes in. Because the moment you give enough space, the space is about 45 centimeters, about 12 inches. 12 inches, 45 centimeters from the base of your spinal cord to your cortex. That is basically what the impulse has to travel. The impulse has to travel from the base of your spinal cord to your cerebrum. And if you can just give it that space, in that moment, you will suddenly see how to choose to respond. And when you respond, you will be relaxed. But if you don't give that space, you will be reacting, and reaction will always be stressful. Reaction cannot be relaxed. As simple as that. Response can be relaxed. Reaction will always be stressed. And what do we do in yoga? We put ourselves into Shavasana. Why do we put ourselves into Shavasana? To simulate the death experience. You are simulating. The yogis were the original simulators, where they said you put yourself into the position that would be adopted by the dead body. Yet, what are you doing? You are breathing. The dead body is not breathing. If you see somebody lying down and you want to know are they alive or dead, the first thing you look at is whether there's some breath happening. A breath is the sign of life. And that is why you are in Shavasana, but you are mindfully breathing in the manner you are choosing to in the present moment. I hope you get this, because Shavasana is not just lying down on your back. That is lying down on your back. Okay? Lying down on your back is lying down on your back. But when you start to breathe mindfully on your back, now it has become Shavasana. Because what has happened is you are making a choice on what type of breathing pattern you are going to adopt. Then comes everything else. You decide to do a segmental relaxation, part by part relaxation, relaxing your toes, relaxing your knees, your hips, your ankles, coming up to the head, okay, a part by part relaxation. What are you doing? In the now, your mind is telling the body, let's relax together. Now, earlier I used to tell people, let the mind command the body. Now what I like to say is, let the mind tell the body, let's relax your toes together. Let's relax your knees together. Not that the mind is saying, toes, you relax, I am telling you. Because the moment the mind tells the toes to relax, the toes will say, who are you? And if they are rude, they'll show them the mudra, which is the universal mudra when you get mad at people. So you don't want your toes to do that, okay? Some of you got it, some didn't. It's okay. Huh? That is what your toes will do, because if I go and tell you, do that, you're going to say, But if I say, okay, let's relax together, there's more chance of you saying, okay, Dr. Ananda. And when the mind and the body start to have an understanding, where is the understanding? In the present moment, let us choose to relax together. Let us work together. That is what the mantra says. Sahana bhavatu, sahanau bhunaktu. May we work together. May we study together. May we not have friction. May we not have, animosity. And the mind and the body need to work together for relaxation to manifest. If your mind and body are not working together, you cannot relax. And that is why you have to get the mind and body to work together. And the facilitator, the negotiator, the marriage counselor for the estranged parties of mind and body is the breath. And that is why the breath-based relaxation is so vital from a yogic standpoint. And this is something that can be done virtually by everybody, even people in an intensive care unit. And we have gone into intensive care units on a regular basis in our hospital, and we just help the person breathe mindfully and try to relax mindfully. And if you can just do those two things, you are going to supplement the healing response in that individual. You will get them out of post-surgery ward earlier. You will get them out of the hospital earlier, which is always much, much better. Get out of the hospital as soon as you can. Get your surgery done and get out as fast as possible. Otherwise, you're going to pick up all sort of infections and have all sort of nasocomnial and iatrogenic disorders happen to you. So getting out of the hospital faster means you have to heal. Your wound has to heal. Your, vitals have to be normal. And so the earlier you can get the person to start mindfully breathing and using the breath to connect the mind and the body in a relaxed manner, the faster you're going to get them out of the hospital situation. Second thing. So lie down in Shavasana. Shavasana as a base posture for relaxation. The breath that is being done mindfully as the second component. And then come the third component, which can be visualization techniques. Visualization techniques are the add-on. And the term visualization is always a bit misunderstood, because we think of visualization as imagination. Now, visualization and imagination are not the same, and we interchange them a lot. Because imagination, I'll give you an example of both, and then you'll know why I say they're different. Imagination is when I have you lie down in Shavasana, have you breathe, for example, in Sukha, equal in and out, or Savitri, the 2-1-2-1. Savitri in Shavasana, unbeatable combination. Your oxygen demand of the body goes down. the muscle tone goes down, you are just absolutely relaxed. Blood pressure goes down, the heart rate goes down. You really go into a very beautiful relaxation response. Shavasana with Savitri Pranayama, depending on the person, it could be 4-2, 4-2, 6-3, 6-3, 8-4, 8-4. It depends on the individual. Whatever you choose to do, that Savitri is going to embellish the relaxation response. Because not only are you mindfully breathing in the corpse Shavasana, but you are invoking the power of the sun, Savitu. Savitri is a synonym of Gayatri, which is the early morning feminine form of the healing energies of the sun. And Savitu is the sun. The sun is the best healer. All traditional cultures, somebody was not well, you got them into a place that had good sunshine, fresh air, and good water, and had them relax. That is how they healed people. And nowadays we put people in hospitals that are air conditioned, and you're on the 22nd floor of an air conditioned room in the middle of New York, now with no light, artificial lighting. How you expect somebody to heal? It is beyond my head. Okay. But we say, oh, they should heal. Oh, you're not healing well. Give you another supplement and another antibiotic and some more fluids. No, get that person into a natural situation. Get that person where there's natural light, natural air, natural water, and natural healing will be facilitated. But anyway, in cities, we have a lot of issues. So you get the person breathing, and then if I were to say, imagine you are an eagle flying high in the sky. And as you're flying over the meadow, the beautiful green meadows filled with the daffodils, and 10,000 I saw at a glance, and look at the beautiful streams and the water running through it, and the heavenly mountains with the ice caps, and that is imagination. Okay, 100% imagination. It is vikalpa. It is a chitta vritti called vikalpa. And this is what most modern yoga relaxation has become. A lot of vikalpa, a lot of, nice imagery. And it is nice. It helps the person. It is nice. I'm not against it. But it is imagination. Visualization implies becoming aware of the energies that are flowing within you. And there are two vital energies, prana and apana. Prana and apana, these are two of the 5 major pranic flows in the individual. And these two are given a special status because they are like the bipolar opposites. One goes up, one goes down. One is warm and golden, the other is cool and silvery. And the prana and apana are equivalent to the inhalation and the exhalation as suggested in the Bhagavad Gita. Offering the prana into the apana and the apana into the prana. The inhalation into the exhalation and the exhalation into inhalation is how the Bhagavad Gita explains this. The pranic flow and apanic flow are the energies that go all the way down into your cells as anions and cations. You have the positively charged and the negatively charged ions, the anions and cations. And this is what cellular balance is all about. It is a balance between the anions and cations. There is a constant interplay of anion, cation trying to find ionic balance in your cells. Electrons and protons at the subatomic level are constantly trying to find balance. The right and left side of the body are constantly trying to find balance. The right and left hemispheres of your brain are constantly trying to find balance. And this concept, when one starts to tap into it, you realize you can start to actually visualize and experience these energies in you. That is where visualization comes in. And the anuloma viloma prakriya. is a very, very important technique in that way. Anuloma Viloma Prakriya. Anuloma Viloma Prakriya. Prakriya means a kriya. A kriya is a systematic, rational movement. Systematic, rational movement. But here it is one of the mind. So it is called a prakriya. It is not of the body. A body movement that is done in a systematic, rational way is a physical kriya. When it is done mentally, it is a prakriya. And because you're using the mind, it becomes a jnana yoga prakriya. So you would add the jnana yoga or raja yoga prakriyas. And these are a whole series of practices in Swamiji's teachings where you start to visualize and feel the beautiful flow. The first and foremost one is feeling the prana moving from the head down to the feet on the inhalation. So there is a beautiful experience of a warm golden pranic energy from the head down to the feet. And as you breathe out, a cool silvery apana flowing from the feet up to the top of the head. Now you'll say, how is it different than imagination? Imagination was an artificially created construct. This is taking your mind in to understand the equal and opposite energies that are part and parcel of you and start to connect to them. You're not talking of owls and eagles and flying in the sky and all that. You are connecting to these two opposite energies, the prana and the apanic flow that is right down into the subcellular and subatomic level. And you are trying to harmonize it. This is where relaxation goes beyond just the body relaxation, but it starts to deal with relaxation of emotions, relaxation of the mind, and relaxation of the psyche itself. And remember, I said psyche goes all the way up to our connection with the universe. Not just the mind and thoughts and emotions, but our connectivity to the universe. And you are letting this relaxation go from the body, soma, all the way up to the psyche. Somato-psychic relaxation is happening here. Not just psychosomatic relaxation, somato-psychic. You are moving through the body, starting to connect the mind, and the relaxation will manifest in blood pressure going down. Your peripheral blood flows, your toes will become warmer, your fingers will become warmer as the peripheral blood flow is enhanced. There will be a beautiful sense of the heart starting to slow down. The blood pressure will go down. All the vagal activity, basically, parasympathetic vagal activity will start to manifest. And a very beautiful sense at that time where you start to go deep within yourself. So the soma, the body is relaxed. You start to have tranquil, placid emotions. You start to have a clarity of the mind. And at that point, this relaxation is percolating from the Annamaya Kosha through Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and up to the Anandamaya Kosha. So you are going from down up. This is a very important part. This is not an intellectual top-down approach. What you are doing is you are actually going right from a down-up approach. It's a very beautiful approach that happens in yoga relaxation. This is why it's not saying, get relaxed, be relaxed, be relaxed, be relaxed. No, no, no. You are actually communicating with the body so that the body starts to feel relaxed. And that relaxation now is percolating up through the layers from the gross to the subtle to the causal. That is the mechanism that is happening in yoga relaxation. This is why it is very different. And yoga relaxation is very different than hypnosis because of this. Because it is going from bottom up, it's not top down. That's why Swamiji used to say yoga relaxation is de-hypnotic. That's what he used to say actually. He said it's de-hypnotic. It's very interesting, the term he gave for it. When we talk about yoga relaxation, Swamiji has given 4 very important aspects. And Swamiji has talked about the 4-fold relaxation. And in this, he talks about letting go. The first one is letting go. The second is giving up. The third is giving in. And the fourth is giving over. So the first one is letting go. I'll just type it out. Letting go is the first one. Oh, it's not letting, it's letting. Okay. Adjust my typographical error there. Letting go. The first one is letting go. The second one is giving up. And I'm going to introduce each one of these. Giving up. Because the moment you say giving up, you're like, oh my God, you have surrendered to everything. It's very different here. Giving in is the next one. Giving in and giving over. Letting go, giving up, giving in, and giving over. This is the fourfold relaxation Swamiji has suggested. Now, what does he mean here? Because at first glance, these terms appear a bit negative. They appear a bit passive. But actually, you'll start to realize as we discuss them, they are a very conscious, active choice. Okay? The first one, letting go. Swamiji gives a very beautiful understanding. He says, we need to let go of our prejudices and preconceived notions. Prejudices and preconceived notions. Because these are the things that trigger the stress. So the first part is to let go of the prejudices and preconceived notion and let down the barriers to the help that we need to receive from outside. Most of us, somebody wants to help us, we don't let them help us. A very big issue with human beings is this denial that they need help. Many people who need help deny they need help. That is why acceptance is a very important component before any change can occur. As long as denial is there, change is going to always be tough. So here, what are we doing? We need to let go of all false notions and all the tensions that are there of the model living. In fact, Swamiji used to say, he said, you need to let go of the god of tension. He said the god of tension that is virtually deified by modern society. The god of tension, I just love that phrase Swamiji gave. He said, the god of tension that is virtually deified in modern society. You have to appear tense and in a hurry for people to think you're doing something. If you're relaxed, they think you're goofing off. And you should look like you're on the job all the time. You have to have that furrowed brow and no smile and head bent down and walk with short shuffling steps. No wonder Parkinson's comes to all of us, because that's actually what happens with Parkinson's. And that is the absolute symptomology of Parkinson's. And that is what modern god of tension is causing all of us to be. Why are these conditions coming in? It is not just the dopamine. It's not just the dopamine, okay? It's not just the dopamine. It's the whole lifestyle, and it's all this thing that you must appear busy, busy, busy and stressed all the time. Otherwise, you are good for nothing. If you want a promotion in your job, you should be the guy in the office who's always looking busy, even if you do nothing. And some people have perfected the art of being busy doing nothing. And some people are so perfect in that they get promoted all the time. It's weird, actually. I know a lot of these people, and sometimes I ask myself that question. Am I too busy without doing anything? And then it's a good self-talk. Talk to yourself, okay? Just don't do it in public. Talk to yourself and have good conversations, because you will never find a better conversationalist than yourself, okay? There's nobody who can understand you better than yourself. So self to self talk. Ananda calling Ananda. It's a nice talk. That's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. If you understand yourself, yourself is your best enemy, friend, And if you don't, for God's sake, it's going to be your worst enemy and do you in like a jilted lover. Krishna didn't say that. That's Ananda's addition there, the spicing up Krishna's saying. But seriously, yourself is your best friend when you understand it. And you are your worst enemy when you don't understand yourself. So please communicate with yourself. Talk to yourself. So often when I'm driving on my own, I'm like, Ananda, what do you think you should do about this? And why is this happening? I ask myself that question. I actually phrase it as, Ananda, what do you think you should do about it? What are you doing? What are you going to do? How are you going to deal with this? What is the right approach, Ananda? I ask myself. And sometimes it's mentally, and sometimes if nobody's around me, I talk to myself even audibly. It's a good thing to do, okay? Now just don't do it in public, and then people will really think you have gone mad. We are all mad. My father used to say, everybody is going to go mad one day. So he said, if you're going to go mad anyway, why not go mad for God? That was his statement. He said, we are all going to go mad one day, so why not go mad for God? For him, God was life, God was yoga, God was the universe, not God as a figurehead. Okay, so that I can understand that. So the first part, Jnana Sundari mentions Laurel and Hardy. I am busy doing nothing, working the whole day through. So true, so true, so true. Lot of that. You have to give it up. And you have to realize that you will be more productive when you are relaxed than when you are stressed. Because when you are stressed, you are not you. And if you are not you, you will not be at your best. And that is where the yogic approach is nishkama, without attachment to the fruit. Because again, one of the causes of stress is attachment to the fruit of your activity. We get attached to the fruit of activity, and then we get stressed about whether we will get the fruit or not. I have taken the class, will I get paid or not? I have done the surgery, will I get paid or not? Will the patient survive or not? Will I get a good name or not? It's always based on what will I get. And then you are stressed about it. But if you do it for the sake of doing, you're not stressed about it. And many people get confused by this because they say if you're not attached to the fruit, people will end up doing nothing. That is why Krishna says, just because you are not attached to the fruit, don't end up doing nothing. Don't go into akarmani, because Krishna has understood what we will do. When he says don't get attached to the fruit, he knows that we'll all say, okay, fine, I'll do nothing. He says don't go down that path also. So Krishna has already been a good teacher. A good teacher is one who gives the answer even before the student has even started to think the question. And Krishna does that in the Bhagavad Gita. Patanjali does it again and again in the Yoga Sutra. These are timeless teachings. These are universal teachings. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, that this is only for certain people, or these are time limited, or these are culture specific. These are universal, timeless teachings. Bhagavad Gita teachings, especially the yoga component and the Yoga Sutra of Maharishi Patanjali. No time bar, no location bar. You don't need a location status. So Google and Facebook and WhatsApp cannot steal your data. Okay, so don't worry about that part. You have a lot of privacy there. Okay, now the second one, giving up. Because the moment you say give up, people are like, oh, you mean surrender and give up in a negative way. No, Swamiji says giving up. We need to give up the stresses and strains that are besetting us. We need to give up the stresses and strains. Most people are so attached to the stresses and strains that they are proud of how much stress they have. They are accumulating it as if they're accumulating property. Just as they're buying an extra house in London, even a parking space in London is too costly these days. Kalavati tells me a parking space in London costs more than a full house in Cardiff. And that's a bit scary, Maxine, that if I want to park a car in London, I'm going to have to spend so much money. But, people are always like, can I have one more house? Can I have one more wife? Can I have one more vacation? Can I buy a small island and set up Kailash, like one of our godmen in India has done? Nityananda, he set up his own Kailash island, and nobody knows where he is. He's off Google. Quite astonishing. He's been having a good time throughout 2020 because nobody knows where he is. Buy an island and have your own currency. He's even printed his own currency. What wonderful thing. People just love to get more and more and more. And so they keep on saying, you see how much stress I have? So I am better than you because I have 3 pounds of stress and you only have 1. And we start to become, that superiority complex based on it. He says, you have to give it up. You have to give it up. It does not mean surrender, as popularly suggested in the English term. To give up means to surrender. It is a conscious throwing off of the weaknesses that build up tension and to let off the foolish tension. Swamiji uses the term, to let off the foolish tensions that turn us into smoking volcanoes. I love this imagery of Swamiji. The smoking volcanoes that we become because of these tensions. We have to give these up. We have to give up these tensions. The giving up here is a conscious, positive, relaxing, and evolutionary process. Now we come to the next one. The third one, giving in. Again, the word has a negative connotation because you have given in to them. You have given in to the pressures, you have given in. But here what it means is, it is to give in to the dictates of the inner mind, the higher consciousness. What is happening? We are always fighting this higher consciousness because we say, I know what I can do. It's like the small kid who the parent is saying, don't go there. And the kid is like, I know what I'm doing. You shut up. Who are you to tell me? What will you do? That is the kid's approach. And that is what most of the time the lower part of us is doing. And we need to give in to the inner mind, the higher consciousness. It is a positive process, not a giving in of surrender. You are not negating or abdicating any positive action or ideas. You're not letting go of the activity. And that is why initially for many, this is an intellectual process. Initially, it is like whenever we are in a stressful situation, to start to go in and connect to the inner consciousness. You can call it the psyche if you want. And one of my dear mentors, Ramesh Bijlani, former head of physiology in Delhi, he used to talk about this psyche. And he is a devotee of Sri Aurobindo and the mother. And he used to give a good example of this voice of the psyche. And he said this voice of the psyche will always be telling you to do the right thing, the dharmic action. But he says what happens is we don't listen to it. And we don't listen to it. And after some time, we start to put up all our logical, rational reasons why we shouldn't be following that voice of the psyche. And then what happens is after some time, you feel bad about it. And so then you have to denigrate the voice of the psyche because otherwise you will be the villain. So you make it the villain so that you will feel better. And he gave a beautiful talk. He said, you see a house on fire and you're walking by. Your first psychic response, the voice says, go and help them put out that fire. Go and help them put out that fire is the first voice. And if you act on it, you are going to go there, you are going to help them fight the fire. And later on, you'll be very, very happy and peaceful. But what do? We leave it for some time. And then the rational part of us starts to say, well, somebody must have called the fire brigade. And after all, the fire brigade's job is to put out the fire. And I'm sure there are enough people who can put off the fire. And after all, I have to get to my job in time. And it is not really my business to put out other people's fires. And what happens is you walk away. Now, for the rest of your life, you regret it because in the deepest part of you, you know that you should have helped them put out that fire. And because you gave a gap, the rational part of you, the lower part of you started to explain why you didn't have to do it. And then you regret it for a long time. After Bishlani sir talked about this, about a decade ago, I heard him talk about it. And after that, I started watching myself a lot. And I have had a dozen experiences after that, where I did not follow the voice of the psyche in different situations. My rational part of me explained why I shouldn't have gone. And then what happened is that later on I have regretted not doing the right thing that I knew was the right thing, and yet I did not do it. And because of that, nowadays, in the last few years, the moment I have that voice of the psyche, I do it. I do not try to rationalize at all. And I have started to give in to that voice. So this giving in is not just in Shavasana. This giving in is every moment of your life so that life becomes relaxed. And I've never regretted any of the things I've done following the voice of the psyche. And it is very, 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 very beautiful. Now, some people call it the gut brain, the gut feeling. They say, oh, I have a gut feeling. It is very similar. And we know that the gut feeling is basically the gut brain may be as important as the brain in our head. And more research is coming to that. And I remember a very beautiful depiction by one of the faculty members of Joseph LePage's yoga therapy program about 5-6 years back when I visited Kripalu. And that time he had a doctor, I am not able to get her name. She was a gastroenterologist dealing with the digestive system. And she put up a slide which was an artistic representation of the human brain nerves and the gut brain nerves, and they were mirror image of each other. It was just amazing, that image. And after that I've searched for it, and it's I have to do some work and get it, because it was such a beautiful image of how these were just like, again, like your right and left brain. The brain in your head and the brain in your gut were basically like mirrors of each other. They were two pieces that sort of fit together. And the more they fit together, the more the completeness, the wholesomeness occurs. So calling it the voice of the psyche, calling it the gut instinct, well, it's just a terminology there. And yes, co-location of atoms, that's a beautiful, beautiful concept there, initial instinct. And again, as Lisa points out, this inner voice, one has to be careful, because, you want to give this gap to respond, but in that gap, you can also have all the logical part come in and block it. And I think this is where mindfulness is so important, because mindfulness, again, is not something you do on the mat. Mindfulness is 24 hours, every moment job. And the more you work on it, the more it becomes your natural state of being. Now, initially, it takes a lot of work, okay? It's like learning to cycle. It takes a lot of work initially. Then after some time, you don't have to think about it. It becomes natural. Learning to drive a car, learning to eat. All of these, we have learned all of these things. Learning to operate a computer. Initially, we struggle. How to use a mouse, I struggled for months. And my instructor had me using paint and making images to get used to using the mouse. That's how I learned to use a mouse at the start of my medical internship. That's when I started using computers. And they were just starting to come into India at that time. Nowadays, I don't have to think about it. The hand automatically goes, and you are moving around. And only when you have to teach somebody about it, you realize how much of breakdown of the process you have to do. That's why it's good to teach. Because when you teach, you have to remember all the steps. Because otherwise it has become so natural for it. People say, I just sing and it's natural. And then somebody says, how did you do it? Divya says, how did you do that? And then I have to break it down. It's a very, very beautiful experience. That is why teaching is not just for your students. Teaching is for your own sake. When you teach, you are enhancing your own growth. It doesn't matter what you teach. Teach them to tie shoelaces, teach them to use a pencil, teaching your kids how to use the potty, anything, do anything you want. But teaching is the best way to keep yourself mindful of the process. Otherwise, we take it for granted. Now, coming in here, as Bernadette says, it's the Agnya Chakra, no doubt about it. The Agnya Chakra is the one that is straight away brought in here. But it becomes difficult to recognize it, because the voice of the psyche is often not the voice of the psyche, but it is the voice of the ego. Now, the voice of the ego is very good at masquerading as the voice of the psyche. I'm using a very clear term here. The voice of the ego is very good at masquerading as the voice of the psyche. And people say, how do I know whether it is the inner conscience? Some people call it the conscience also. That's another word for the same. The conscience, the inner voice, the higher voice, the voice of the psyche, all of this. People say, how do I distinguish it? Well, I think the yama niyama of yoga are good guidelines for this. The voice of the psyche will never go against the principles of yama niyama. Because the yama niyama are not just rules for external life, they are internal principles of dharma. Okay, so the principles of dharma are eternal. That is why Patanjali calls them Mahavratam. He says Sarva Bhauma Mahavratam, universal vows. Universal, people use the term vow because vrata is translated as vow. But let me rephrase it. These are timeless universal principles. The yama niyama are timeless universal principles, not limited to location or personality. He says, Sarva Bhauma Mahavratam. They are not limited. You cannot say, oh, these rules, the yama niyama are different from North America compared to South Africa, and they are different from Australia and New Zealand and South India. No. Yama niyama are universal, timeless principles, universal, timeless principles of right living. That's what they are. Because they are in tune with the dharma. So the voice of the psyche will never suggest anything that goes against the yama niyama. This is where yoga is bringing an attitude and giving you the tools also. If the voice of if I have a voice that says, punch somebody in the nose, immediately I know, well, that is himsa, it is against ahimsa. It must be my egotistical reactivity that wants me to punch and not the higher voice of the psyche. So the moment that inner voice that you are hearing is telling you to do something, think something, say something, do something, not just do, think, say, or do. Head, mouth, hand. Okay. If it is telling you to think, say, do something that is against the principle of yama niyama, most probably, more often than not, it is the lower ego, not the voice of the psyche. Because the voice of the psyche will follow dharma like Yudhishthira. I told you Yudhishthira, the eldest of the Pandavas, was Dharma Raja. The voice of the psyche is like Dharma. Dharma Raja. It will not advise you or instigate you to march upon the capital for sure. It will not. That is the lower survival instinct in moments of desperation that will do anything to keep itself alive in whatever form it can. And that is a spinal cord jerk mentality. I'm sorry to say it, but that's what it is. It's right down at the base of the spinal cord. And this is why the yama niyama are choices made by the higher consciousness. They are responsive. Ahimsa, going against violence, is a conscious choice. Going against untruth is a conscious choice. Because violence is supporting survival. The untruth may support survival. Stealing may support survival. You know, all of that, even the excessive use of one's creative energies, especially of the sexual nature, is helping survival of your type of genome. So all of these anti-yama niyama, they are called vitarka. I'm going to type that also here. Vitarka, Vitarka. Vitarka is the deviant. Vitarka means a deviant, that which deviates you from yama niyama. All the vitarkas are based on survival, and all of the vitarkas will lead to stress. And that is why the voice of the psyche is what we are trying to find. And as Lisa has pointed out, all the yama are the negation of the lower tendencies, and the niyamas are the yes of the higher responsives. Let's put it this way, as we are talking reactivity and responsiveness. No to the reactiveness, yes to the responsiveness. Yama as no to the reactiveness, and niyama as yes to the responsiveness. Just to put it in that same framework. Thank you, Lisa, for bringing that out. So we have now gone through the three parts: letting go, giving up, giving in, and now comes the next one, giving over. Now, what is this giving over? It is the highest stage of relaxation, where the control of the mind itself is given over to what would be called the highest self, the Atma. Now, this is a very, very big jump here. And this is basically the fifth of the niyamas, Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana is the capacity to give over to something higher than us. Whatever that higher may be. Call it God, call it, whatever you want. That's giving over to something higher than us, giving over to the universe. Ishvara Pranidhana. And Swamiji used to call it Atman Prasadanam. He said, because it is the prasad, it is the blessed coming back from the Atman itself. Because you have given over to the highest, the Atma itself. And the Atma is blessing you. So whatever is happening is now a blessing of the Atman. And this is the same as Bhakti Yoga. The other day I gave a talk on Bhakti Yoga. And one of the aspects of Bhakti Yoga, and thanks to Rama Reddy sir, he gave me the recording. The organizers haven't bothered to give me, but I got it thanks to him. There's one more recording the other day, which was a good one. I was asked to talk on yoga and nationalism. And they got something I don't think they really wanted to hear. They wanted something else. I showed them, I tried to tell them how nationalism is when the whole universe becomes one nation for you. And, it's not just your limited version of nation, but the one world, one family nation that you want to grow into. I don't think people really wanted that, but that was a good one. I haven't yet got a recording of that. I have to find it. Coming back. Bhakti Yoga has one aspect called Atma Nivedanam. Atma Nivedanam. Atma Nivedanam is one of the aspects of Bhakti. And this is where your whole process is Naivedyam. Naivedyam is the sacred food we offer to the divine. So whenever we do a puja, we put some food or a fruit and we offer it to the divine. And it is called Naivedya. And you're giving it to the Atma. And then what comes back is Prasad. Prasad is the blessed returned food from the divine. So Atman Prasadanam of Swamiji, Atma Nivedanam of Bhakti Yoga, and Ishvara Pranidhana of the Yoga Sutras. All three of these are helping us understand that we are not the big universe we think we are, that we as an individual are giving over to something greater. You merge into a beautiful super conscious state. You could call it samadhi, and it is a peak of fulfillment. You have a sense of oneness in this because it's not you anymore. You are giving over to something bigger. There is no duality. It is a state of non-duality. And in non-duality, there's no stress. Because all stress starts with duality. Duality breeds fear. Fear breeds stress. And that is why this giving over aspect of relaxation that Swamiji is talking about here enables us to dilute the poison of our stress. And I made a statement the other day when talking about this. I said, medicine in concentration, medicine becomes poison, and poison in dilution becomes medicine. Poison in dilution becomes medicine. Medicine in concentration becomes poison. So the poison is the stress. Now, when you give over to something bigger, you have diluted your stress, and that poison of your stress, which would poison you, is now getting diluted into the ocean of the cosmos, and it has a medicinal, beneficial effect. And I've often talked about this because as long as we are stuck with the me, small I, the stress will poison us and kill us. Because poison taken in a small cup will kill you. Poison, that same amount of 1 cup of poison put into the water source of your city will purify the water. That same poison, fluorination is the same thing. The chlorine and fluorine put into your city's drinking water, if it was given to you in a cup, you would die instantaneously. But in the water supply of the city, what has happened? You have diluted it by moving from you to your city. And if that same 1 cup of poison is put into the ocean, there's no effect at all. Because what has happened? When you have given over completely to the universe, to that bigger self, at that point, there's no effect at all. And there are the stories of Mirabai, one of the great bhakti yogis, who loved Krishna so much that she was given poison to drink, and she took it and nothing happened. They put snakes into her room to kill her. The snakes turned into rose garlands. We have these type of stories in our culture. People think of that as a physical happening. What it means is Mirabai's bhakti was so much that even the poison that could be there was neutralized by the expansiveness of giving over. And that is why these concepts are concepts to not just be brought into Shavasana, where they automatically come. The practices, Shavasana with Savitri Pranayama, the Marmanastanam, the Yoga Nidra, all of these, they are in technique form bringing these concepts to life. Through the technique, these concepts are brought to life. And because it is somatopsychic, they start off with the body, you feel more relaxed. You say, that's nice. And then you start to feel more emotionally balanced rather than being an emotional imbecile and volatile. You start to have an emotional intelligence. Most people don't have it. It's called EQ, emotional quotient. Starts to develop. That's a balance between your capacity to question yourself, ask yourself and ask outside, serve yourself and serve outside, and find a balance between you and the outside by becoming one, moving from I and you, me and you, to becoming us. That is what emotional quotient and emotional intelligence is all about. Moving from the I to the we. And Sangeeta has mentioned, is giving in like an inhale and giving over like an exhale. I love that. I think that's a very, very beautiful statement, Sangeeta. I really, really like that. Because the giving in is like an inhale, where you are going in and connecting to that higher consciousness, and then you have that wisdom to give over. Because giving over requires trust. Giving over requires trust. And we are often scared of that. And that is why trust is so important. Bhakti yoga is a lot about trust in the universe. People think about it as, just, singing songs and chanting mantras, but that is one component. That is one component that also facilitates the trust. But the peak of bhakti is you just trust the universe, even when you are dangling by your toenails over the cliff. And I remember, I had an image of a big, hand holding someone by the toes and they're dangling over the cliff, with a crocodile down at the bottom. And to have trust in the universe at that point. That is the trust that Jesus had when he was nailed up on the cross. That's why I consider Christ a yogi. Because, to have that capacity to give over and say, thy will be done, instead of, ouch, get these guys, let me down and kill them, or, God in heaven, throw lightning bolts at them. This is what most people do. Why is Christ a yogi? Because of that attitude, that capacity to give over, even in that highest torturous moment. That's what I want to point out here. See, it's very nice to be in your warm, cozy blanket and say, I give over to the universe. Okay, it's very, very easy. It is when you are being tested, are you willing to have that attitude? That is where the highest choice comes. Do we have any questions that anybody would like to ask live, or put your hand up and just let me know? Swamiji's concept of fourfold relaxation is just something that has been a great lesson to me over the past 2 decades. The past 2 decades, I have introspected on this a lot. Because once you get this into it, you understand what the relaxation response is. And see, relaxation response doesn't mean you're just lying there on your warm beach with your swimsuit on and a cold lemonade in your hand. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that you are just being you. The relaxation response is when you are being you, actually. And that is where you can be the best you. Because if you are driven by stress, we say, well, up to the first half of the curve, optimal stress, we call it. And well, to survive on this planet, you need optimal stress. Otherwise, you cannot survive. And people ask me, they say, does yoga make you parasympathetic dominant? I say, I hope not. Because you want to have autonomic balance, not dominance of parasympathetic. Because dominance of parasympathetic, you will not be able to survive for one day on this planet. So, you need balanced autonomic function. And the autonomic nervous system is a good indicator of what's happening in your emotions and also what's happening in your thoughts. Autonomic function tests, we have done a lot of work on it. There's a good one called heart rate variability. And heart rate variability is an amazing one. I tell you seriously, you really start to understand how instantaneously you can bring about changes. And if you change the pattern of breathing, you have done it. Changing your pattern of breathing is so important. And the yoga nidra, there are different forms. Swamiji's form of yoga nidra that we'll be doing in the correspondence course, Yoga Step by Step, in the module 4, is a very, very specific technique which is connecting us with the universe. So Swamiji's version of Yoga Nidra is one where this giving over and becoming one is truly brought into action. Most of the Yoga Nidras in popular use are imagination, visualization, creative imagery techniques. And they are useful. They are useful, but they have sort of tagged on to that term Yoga Nidra. People have tagged on to the term Yoga Nidra, that any form of yoga relaxation is Yoga Nidra. Well, no. Any form of relaxation is not Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra implies when you are connected to the universe and there's no dichotomy. That is actually Yoga Nidra. There's no separatedness. That is what Yoga Nidra means. And it is said that Lord Vishnu, the principle of conservation, is sleeping on the infinite serpent, Ananta, which is Joseph Lee Page's yoga name. And I love that. I love Joseph, but I also love Ananta. And the Ananta part in him and I, we relate a lot. Ananda talks to Ananta. It's a nice one. Ananta is infinite. And it's this serpent, and Lord Vishnu is said to be in Yoga Nidra. And this is when you contemplate the infinite, you realize that your stresses and your troubles are peanuts. And then you don't take them too seriously and you start to deal with them more objectively. And that is the perspective. The perspective of Yoga Nidra is putting yourself in relation to the cosmos. That is actually what Yoga Nidra is. Now, it has come to mean all sort of visualization, and I have some very dear friends in yoga circles who do uh, amazing work in this, and they have CDs on Yoga Nidra and lot of visualization techniques, eagles in the sky, and you are a dolphin underwater swimming, and it's all nice imagery, but the term Yoga Nidra is not really appropriate. But if I say that, I would be put up on the cross most parts of the world. So I don't say it too often and I keep my mouth shut. But Yoga Nidra in this tradition is used for a specific practice where we connect to the umbilical area, which is the Manipura, which is our psychic umbilical cord, and we connect to our universal mother, becoming one with the universal mother and having a sense of relaxation that the baby has when the baby is safe, loved, and cared for and nurtured in the mother's womb. That is what Yoga Nidra should actually bring. And any form of part by part relaxation has become Yoga Nidra. Any sort of imagery has become Yoga Nidra. It is okay as long as it benefits people. It's like my pet peeve with Yogopathy. Yogopathy is fine if it helps people, but it's not really yoga therapy. Yoga therapy is just so much bigger than Yogopathy. Similarly, Yoga Nidra is much bigger than what it is meant to be. So I think I will just leave it at that. The fourth module has that whole section where Swamiji talks about how we cut through the subconscious conditioning as we go through this process of Yoga Nidra, and connecting what would be called Sushupti. Sushupti is the deepest sleep we have, where we become one with the universe. And that is actually what Yoga Nidra connects us to. We'll stop there for today. A good day to have the satsang and celebrating the sun that is the source of life and the sun that illumines our path. May we all be that resplendent luminosity that can guide us and guide others through our lives. I think that would be the greatest way we can repay our gratitude for the gift of life. The gift of life is such an amazing gift that the only way we can ever try to repay it, I don't think you can repay it, but you can try to, is by living a life that is worthy of being human and helping others. Helping others. I think in helping others, you help yourself so much because we are all connected. We are all so connected. Someone asked me the other day, what do I do with my neighbors? I said, you be the neighbor that you would like neighbors to be. You be the neighbor that you would like to have. You be the person you would like others to be in your life. You be the husband you would like to be. You be the wife you would like to be. You be the friend you would like to be. You be the student you would like to be. You be the teacher you would like to be. You be the therapist you would like to be. You be the dog you would like to be. You be the cat you would like to be. You be what you want others to be. Because when you be that, I think you start to change cell by cell, atom by atom. Things start to change. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Om. See you all later whenever we see you. Saturday morning, Sunday, Thursday, whenever it is. Have a wonderful time. Be the best you.